You've landed on a runway dozens, maybe hundreds of times. You felt the wheels bark, the reverse thrust kick in, the whole plane shudder as it slows. And in all of that, did you ever stop to wonder, is that runway actually flat? Because it isn't. Every runway you've ever touched down on is subtly curved, crowned at the center like the spine of a very gentle hill, engineered so that rainwater evacuates the surface in literal seconds. A flat runway in a rainstorm becomes a skating rink. Aquaplaning. 400 tons of aircraft with zero grip. That one hidden curve is the difference between a landing and a disaster. And here's what got me. I've stood on runways, walked across them, and I never once noticed. So if that's hiding in plain sight, what else is the airport hiding? As it turns out, almost everything. Think about the last time you were in an airport. Really think about it. You were probably staring at a departure board, hunting for a coffee, dragging a bag across that shiny terminal floor. You weren't thinking about the floor. Nobody ever thinks about the floor. That's kind of the point. We treat airports like furniture. Big, expensive, slightly annoying furniture. A roof to stand under while you wait. Some gates, a tarmac, a runway in the distance you glance at through the window. It all just works. And because it works, we stop seeing it. The lighting guides you without you noticing it's guiding you. The paint tells you where to walk and you walk there, no questions asked. The concrete holds up under your feet, and you never once wonder what it took to make that concrete worthy of the forces pressing down on it every single day. That comfort, that total, unthinking trust, is exactly the blind spot that airports are built behind. Nobody interrogates what they've never seen fail, and airports have been very, very careful about what they let you see. But the moment you start pulling back the surface, literally the surface, starting with that runway, the engineering underneath is almost unsettling in its complexity. Because that pavement isn't just pavement, not even close. Think about what a runway actually has to survive. A fully loaded commercial aircraft, 400 tons of metal, fuel, and people, hits that surface at close to 180 miles per hour. Not once, hundreds of times a day. In summer heat, that makes the ground expand. In winter cold, that tries to crack it apart. In rain, in crosswinds. In the kind of fog where pilots are essentially flying on instruments until the wheels are already down. No highway on Earth takes that kind of punishment. No bridge, no structure you interact with casually was designed around forces this extreme, this repetitive, and this unforgiving of failure. And here's the thing that reframes every engineering decision you're about to hear. Almost nothing about modern runway design was invented from pure theory. It was reverse engineered from accidents. From planes that skidded off the end of wet pavement. From surfaces that crumbled under weight they weren't rated for. From disasters that killed people and forced engineers back to the drawing board with a very specific problem to solve. Every groove in that concrete, every painted marking, every inch of those overrun areas at the end of the strip, someone died or nearly died before that feature existed. The runway isn't just pavement. It's a record of every way this can go wrong. And the pavement itself, the actual material under those tires, is far stranger than you'd ever expect. Runway concrete is nothing like the road you drove to the airport on, not even close. A highway is poured as one continuous surface. A runway is built in slabs, individual interlocking panels, each one separated by precisely engineered gaps called expansion joints. Those gaps aren't a flaw, they are intentional. Concrete expands in heat and contracts in cold. And without those joints, the whole surface would buckle and crack under the thermal stress of a single summer afternoon. Each slab is designed to move independently, just enough, without ever shifting enough to matter under a landing gear. Then there's the texture. Run your hand across a runway and it feels almost ribbed, thousands of tiny parallel grooves cut into the surface. That's not aesthetic. Those grooves are a drainage system measured in milliseconds. When a tire hits wet concrete at landing speed, there's almost no time for water to go anywhere. The grooves give it somewhere to go, channeled away from the contact patch before the tire even registers it was there. Without that texture, you're back to aquaplaning, back to the skating rink. But here's where it gets strange. Every landing deposits a thin layer of rubber onto that surface. Thousands of landings, thousands of layers. Slowly, invisibly, that rubber fills in the grooves. The texture gets smoother. The friction coefficient, the grip rating, quietly drops. So airports don't just build the surface and move on. They test it. After major weather, after heavy traffic cycles, inspectors run friction-measuring vehicles across the runway and certify the grip level is still within safe limits. And sometimes it isn't. The surface passes one test, then quietly degrades before the next one. Which raises an uncomfortable question. What happens in the window between certifications? What's underneath? A runway might disturb you more than what's on top of it. While you're focused on the surface, the friction, the grooving, the rubber buildup, there's an entire engineered world buried just below your feet. Cables, drainage channels, pipe networks, and at major international hubs in colder climates, heated grids embedded beneath the pavement itself. Not de-icing sprayed from above, heat generated from below, pushing up through the structure, preventing ice from forming before it ever gets a chance. The runway fighting winter from the inside out. But the heating systems aren't even the strangest part. At airports in northern latitudes, places where the ground freezes hard and thaws, and freezes again across a single season, runway foundations are deliberately engineered to flex. Not to crack, to flex. The pavement is designed to move in controlled, predictable ways as temperatures swing, absorbing the stress rather than fracturing under it. Engineers call this controlled deflection. You can think of it like the difference between snapping a frozen twig and bending a green one. Rigid fails, flexible survives. So here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. The runway beneath a landing aircraft is simultaneously draining water through buried channels, conducting electricity through embedded cable networks, releasing heat from subsurface grids, and in freezing conditions, physically moving, bending, breathing almost. It is not the inert slab of stone it pretends to be. It is a living, dynamic system responding to forces in real time, forces that are also slowly, incrementally wearing it down with every single contact. Which means the most critical question in runway engineering isn't how it performs today. It's how engineers calculate exactly how much life it has left. Every landing subtracts something. Not visibly, not dramatically, but the math is running whether anyone's watching or not. Engineers don't measure runway lifespan in years. They measure it in something called equivalent single-wheel loads, a way of converting every aircraft movement, every weight, every tire configuration into a single standardized unit of stress. A loaded A380 touching down counts for vastly more than a small regional jet. Each one ticks the counter forward. And when that counter hits zero, the runway doesn't crumble. It just quietly crosses a threshold where the risk of failure becomes unacceptable. Here's where it gets personal. That invisible countdown is the reason your flight got rerouted last summer. It's why a major hub suddenly closed its primary runway for 6 weeks. It's why your connection disappeared overnight with no real explanation. Runway reconstruction schedules ripple outward through entire airline networks, cascading into delays thousands of miles away. The engineering is impressive, yes, but it's also quietly running your travel life. And the most unsettling part, that countdown began the moment the first plane ever touched down, long before you booked your ticket. Think about the last time you landed. The clouds broke, the tarmac rushed up, the wheels hit. You probably gripped the armrest or stared out the window and just waited for it to be over. But now you know what that ground actually is. That subtle curve you never felt is the product of failure after failure, accident after accident. Every one of them quietly folded into the pavement beneath your wheels. The grooving pulling water away in milliseconds. The expansion joints absorbing forces that would crack ordinary concrete in a season. The friction ratings, the buried drainage, the living flex of a surface that bends so it doesn't break. None of it is accidental. Every single choice was someone's answer to something that went wrong before. The next time a plane drops through the clouds and those wheels bark against the runway, you won't just feel the landing. You'll know the ground is working. Draining, gripping, flexing, absorbing, actively keeping you alive in the seconds it takes to go from flying to stopped. Airports aren't fancy parking lots. They are some of the most precisely engineered real estate on Earth. And it was all hiding right there under your feet the whole time.